Well, hello, boys and girls, and ladies and gents, and members of the Big Red Army. It's your boy Big Red back for another weekend live review. Well, I decided to go on a little early today because I'm tired. I'm old. Played a little Fortnite earlier this morning, way early this morning, probably way earlier than I should have been. And well, I was up all last night because I couldn't sleep because of this pain that I'm always in. And well, yeah, the pain is kicking my butt. So what did I do today? Unfortunately, I took a nap. And although it was a good thing because I slept a little bit, it's a bad thing because it made me more tired. Whenever I take a nap, I always feel more tired. So I'm going on a little earlier today. It's about 6, it's almost 6 o'clock at night. I usually go on at 9 o'clock at night when I do my live thing on Sundays. But no, not today. Going on a little. So what did we do this week? Posted, I think, 4 videos, 5 videos. I don't remember what I posted. Check it out. It's down there in the bottom. It'll show you, if you look at the homepage, it'll show you the most recent stuff I uploaded. I know I did a couple of snack attack reviews, maybe one cooking thing from the Ghetto Gourmet. You know, did a couple things. But here's where we just have open discussion. We go live. We talk to you guys. I see I only got one viewer right now. Hi. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to leave a comment, ask a question, go for it. It's all good. I just watched an interesting documentary, which I would normally do on Fat Man on film, but you know what? I'll just do it live right here. Watched a documentary about cassette tapes. Do you boys and girls even know what cassette tapes are these days? I know what they are. I mean, I grew up, you know, mid 70s. Well, I was born in the early 70s, but I remember the mid 70s and definitely remember the 80s and the 90s. And, you know, I started off with listening to vinyl, music on vinyl. And then there was that brief moment where people were getting into 8-track tapes, and 8-tracks were terrible. Interesting idea how they worked. Still don't know how they work exactly, but very interesting. Then all of a sudden, the cassette tape came along. I mean, cassette tapes were around for a long time, but this documentary I watched was called Cassette, a documentary mixtape. It was interesting. It had the guy who actually invented the modern cassette tape, the little bitty cassette tapes, and his name was Lou Otten, Otten, something, Lou Otten, whatever. He's from, I think he was from Sweden or something. He worked for Philips, the same people that make light bulbs and stuff like that. They made electronics and all kinds of stuff. And it was made back in the 60s is when cassette tapes were actually made. They didn't become real super popular till like the very late 70s, early 80s, when Sony decided they could figure out a way to make cassettes portable, where you had your little Walkman, you know, like nowadays you got your iPods, which I think iPods are obsolete now. I think everybody just does everything on their phone, streaming. But let's see. Hello there from England, UK. I've got to say, you are amazing. I watched your videos. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too, although you're a few weeks early. Thanks anyhow. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you and your family. But yeah, cassette tapes were my jam, dude. I loved my vinyl. Don't get me wrong. I loved my vinyl. I had before I got degenerative disc disease and I started shrinking some. And yes, you do shrink if you have degenerative disc disease because the spacing in between your vertebrae, your disc starts shrinking. So therefore, you start shrinking. It used to be 6'10" 3/4". Just call it 6'11". Not 6'11". Hell, I'm not that freaking tall. 5'11". I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired as hell. Now I'm about 5'9.5". I lost about 1.5 inches. 9 days to go in England. Yeah, you're probably about a day ahead of us. You're about 6 hours ahead of us. So it's probably midnight by you. Thanks for staying up late and watching, you boy. I appreciate it. I know you're 6 hours ahead in England. So it's damn near midnight by you guys. Happy Monday, I guess. It's still Sunday here in the U.S. Uh, so anyway, I had 6 stacks of vinyl as tall as me. You figure. Yep, like I said, it's 5:57 here. So yeah, you're 6 hours ahead. Um, so anyhow, the vinyl, I had a shit ton of vinyl. I used to have records and records and records, and when they started making cassette tapes, it was an easy way for me to, you know, make mixtapes. I would make my own greatest hits, if you will. I would record. I would sit there and painstakingly record. Put the needle on the record, put the needle on the record, and yeah, I would make my own greatest hits, put it in the car, and then they started. Then I started getting into buying cassette tapes. I would still have my vinyl, but when people stopped making vinyl, I would. That's a tough question, buddy. What's my best song? Ooh, depends on my mood. I mean, I listen to everything from classical music, like Mozart and Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and any of those other composers, to freaking death metal. So and everything in between. I don't listen to the new pop. The new pop and the new rap, it just doesn't get me. Old school hip hop from like the early 80s, like when it wasn't even rap yet. I don't even know what it was classified as. But like Sugar Hill Gang and Rapper's Delight and stuff like that. When breakdancing started, like in the early 80s, like 82, 83, I would listen to some of that, and all the way up to like the mid 80s. I'd listen to a lot of heavy metal, a lot of hard rock, glam metal. I like old country, like storytelling country, like Waylon Jennings and freaking Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Johnny Paycheck, that kind of country. This new country this new country is just pop twang. But we're getting a little sidetracked here. We're talking about music, but it's all relevant when we're talking about formats of your music. So anyway, I would sit up and I would make like my Kiss greatest hits. I would then I would go ahead and I would make like my favorite ballads from my glam rock collection and whatever. I'd make my favorite Ozzy tracks or whatever. And it was a way just to bring your music around on cassette. And then all of a sudden I want to say sometime in the mid to late 80s, CDs came around and it was a better quality. And I mean, this documentary I just watched, Cassette, a documentary mixtape, was definitely, it showed from like a consumer aspect to a musician aspect of the relevance of cassettes. And cassettes is making a comeback now, believe it or not. And unfortunately, Hurricane Katrina took out my cassette collection. I used to have over 2,000 cassettes, and it was crazy. I mean, I had a wall with shelving unit loaded with cassettes, all alphabetical, because I'm a freaking stickler for categorizing my stuff. Like all our comic books are alphabetical, all our freaking movies are alphabetical by category, all our music before I went digital. Let's talk about digital music, like starting with the CD. I mean, it's cool and all because, you could fit more on a CD depending on, well, not really, because I mean, a CD, you could only fit so much music on the CD. But it was a less likely to wear out. But I mean, you could still scratch your CD and your CD would skip, but your cassette would wear out and would start dragging. You'd still listen to that. You ain't gonna listen to a skipping CD, but you'd listen to a cassette that was slowly starting to drag or something. To me, cassettes were more warmer than CDs, and definitely more warmer than a MP3 file. I mean, the thing about MP3 files and digital music that you might store in a cloud or on your computer or something, And don't get me wrong, I've got a ton of music on my computer. Actually, I have a secondary hard drive just for music. And I've got enough music that I could listen to music for 400 and something days, starting at one, going all the way to the last track, and it'll take me 400 and something days before I hear that first song again. So I do have a ton of music, and it's all stored on a hard drive. And I could put that hard drive in my hand, put it in a backpack, and take off if something were to happen. If I had that much music, as a collector, which Hurricane Katrina cured me of collecting, except for comic books, because my son got into it and then we went overboard with it. But yeah, if I had that much music on cassette or vinyl, it would fill this room. I mean, it would be ridiculous. Yeah, it's just cumbersome. So every form of music formatting has its purpose. My personal favorite is records, vinyl, as you will. If you had a good turntable with a good needle, and the vinyl was a pristine copy of vinyl, it just felt so much warmer. It was so much richer. Digital music, it just sounds like it's exactly what it is. It's digital. It's like, again, depending on, a lot of things weren't digitalized, so it depends on what your source is the quality of your, is going to be the quality of what you get on your digital copy. But I mean, I've got some digital copies of things that were lifted from vinyl, and somebody digitalized them, and I mean, great, they preserved it. They put it on digital format so people can still listen to it years from now. I mean, and everything, let's just say every format is gonna have its upsides and it's gonna have its flaws. Like vinyl, if left in the heat, it will warp. It will, if you lay it down flat for too long and you stack other vinyl on it, it will warp. You play it too much with if your needle goes, I used to have a diamond tip needle. If your needle gets worn or you accidentally skip it across the record, you could scratch your record. The grooves could get deeper, depending on how often you played it, and it will start popping. You'll hear that popping sound. Cassettes, they get stretched out over time. They'll start dragging, or the machine that you play it in could eat your tape. God forbid. I went through 4 copies of Beastie Boys' License to Ill because I listened to it so much. Either it would start dragging or it would start stretching out. The machine ate 1 or 2. Yeah, I went through a lot of copies of Beastie Boys' License to Ill. Let's see. 8-track, that was a weird and bad idea to start with. I mean, that's definitely, if you're going to put something on tape, cassette's the way to go. But the way that the cassette was actually invented, before cassettes, they had analog music on tapes, but it was on reel to reel. And I mean, you'd have, 10, 12-inch reels of tape. And it was just impractical, and it was overly expensive. So this gentleman, Lou Otten, was fumbling around with his reel-to-reel player, and he was the head of the division of Philips company. And he approached some of his guys, and he said, "Hey, let's figure out a way to make something more compact, more affordable, and whatever." So they invented this cassette. And believe it or not, in this video, I learned something that I didn't know about the cassette. The original cassettes back in 1960 something or other, in the early 60s, forgive me, I don't remember. It was like 2 hours ago when video first started. They were actually recorded the other way. So if you put an original cassette from like the 60s, early 60s, put it in there and in a modern machine and hit play, it played it backwards. So you just get that, everything played backwards and draggy sound. And they actually played 1 or 2 on the documentary. It was pretty interesting. And then they wound up saying, no, we need to, universalize this, play everything one way, blah, 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 blah. and that's when the modern cassette was born. I mean, it was, to where it was universal. Uh, Believe it or not, Lou Otten, the guy who invented the modern cassette, guess what else he invented? He invented the modern CD because he said it was a quicker, cheaper, faster way to store music. So basically, the guy who gave birth to the cassette also killed the cassette. Anyway, he invented the modern CD player. I mean, he didn't invent the player, but he invented the way of formatting music onto a CD. It was actually pretty interesting, this whole documentary. But I mean, it had people on there. One of the guys from the Minutemen, Henry Rollins, was on there, and they were talking about the aspect. They had other musicians on there, but they were talking about the aspects of how when they were youth, they couldn't afford to go into a recording studio and actually record real records. So what they would do is they'd get a little 4-track recorder, a cassette tape, put it in, record their demos right there, boom, and produce them themselves. It was more raw and natural because you can't do much editing with a 4-track. Anyway, they were talking about how it was so much cheaper and affordable, and they'd sell them at their shows. But I read an interesting article about a year ago or 6 months ago, somewhere within the last year. I read an article that cassettes are actually making a comeback. They're developing a new cassette that can hold up to, I think it said, like 4 hours of data on it. Like, you could use the cassette tape for a lot more than just music. And when I was young, they made 30-minute cassettes, which meant you got 15 minutes on each side, which most albums were only about 30, 35 minutes per side. And the actual record companies like CBS Records and Adco and Warner Brothers and MCA, they were like, well, no, y'all can't make cassettes over 30 minutes because, we'll have people making bootleg copies of our whole albums, and then whatever. But I mean, now look at the digital age. Everything's digitally downloaded. You trade files with your friends. So yeah, the music business is just, organized crime in my book. I mean, they're getting rich off of someone else's talent. So screw them. But anyway, originally you couldn't get a cassette over 30 minutes. And then they started making hour cassettes where you could have 30 minutes per side. And then they came out with the 120 tapes, which you could have 60 minutes per side. And then before that, they had the 90-minute tapes where you got 45 minutes a side. Obviously, whatever number the tape was, you had half that amount of time on one side, half on the other. But yeah, cassettes to me was more personal. Just like, I mean, I realized that watching this documentary that if you make somebody a mixtape, you actually had to sit there and record it in real time. So you spent your time, you spent a lot more time making a mixtape for someone. And Lord forbid you didn't have the song you wanted to put on a mixtape for someone, and you had to sit there listening to FM radio painlessly and tirelessly waiting for that song to come on and just hit play record to get that song for said person. So I mean, it was a lot more personal, and you would make your mixtape for your friend or make your mixtape for a chick you're trying to impress, or say, hey, look, this is the kind of music I'm into, what are you into, kind of thing. Than it is today, like with the CD. You can you got a CD. Yeah, you got to make a playlist, but it's like you don't have to sit there and listen to it in real time. You just look at your files and be like, okay, I want to put this song, this song, this song, highlight, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, boom, done. With a cassette, it was way more personal. You had to sit there in real time, unless like toward the late 80s, early 90s, they made the double cassette decks where you could record in double speed. But the only way you're recording it in double speed and making a mixtape was it ain't happening because the song would end too fast and then you catch the other thing. The only thing double speed recording was good for was you can record a whole album if you wanted to give a copy of to your friend of a whole album, you could hit high speed record, zip, it's done in half the time. So if it's a 30-minute cassette, it's done in 15 minutes. But still, that's still 15 minutes. As to where you're doing your MP3s, you just click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, boom, done. You're done in 5 minutes. The only thought process going into it was which songs you want to click. Now, if you're making a personal best of for yourself, even with MP3s for your Spotify or whatever, I mean, again, you think, oh, this song, and then, oh, that song reminds me of this song, and that song reminds me of this song. Let me put this on there and that on there. And the next thing you know it, you're just jumping from track to track, whereas a cassette, you had to sit there and, you're listening to it. Yeah, you could fast forward through it, but then you had to fast forward. Oops, I went too far into the next song. I got to rewind it, So more than likely, if you had a cassette, you were just playing it all the way through. As to where, even with a record, you didn't like that song, you could pick up the needle and put it on the next song very quickly. Cassettes was a different animal. I mean, you had to, definitely, you had to put time and work into making mixtapes and whatever. But, and tapes were just like store-bought tapes. It was an easy way you could, I used to load up my car. I'd have this little thing. It was probably about, I don't know, maybe 12 inches long, maybe a little wider than a cassette. And you probably put 10 or 20 cassettes in this thing. I can't remember, or it might have been 12. But you load it up, stick it in your car, and you go. Just like the little booklets you put your CDs in, and you take them out the case, which I never did. I never did get into that, where you took the CD out of its jewel case and put it into a sleeved book, and then take off, and you could take God knows how many hundreds of CD time, but it was still bulky and cumbersome. And that's where the digital age comes in, where, I mean, you could put your whole record collection in the palm of your hand. Or I wouldn't say record collection. I mean, I still call albums records, but you could put your whole music collection, your whole music library in the palm of your hand and have it at a touch of a button. But the problem with that is there's so many choices. Even now, it's like, yeah, I've got, 400 and something days worth of music, but I find myself listening to the same old thing over and over. Like, depending on my mood. If I'm in a bad mood, I've got this go-to music. If I'm in a bad mood and I want to get happy, I got this to go to. Feeling a little nostalgic, I got a little more to go to. But, I find myself listening to the same old thing. I guess most of the other stuff is just there. I guess it's my way of preserving things, like, hey, I got this all under this one big umbrella. If a friend calls me up or sends me an email or hits me up on Facebook and say, hey, man, I'm looking for such and such album or such and such song. Do you have it? Like, dude, give me your email address and zip, there you go. It's, I guess because after losing everything in Hurricane Katrina, losing music, losing this, losing that. And, it's like just an easier way to just store everything, But what kind of music do y'all listen to? What is your preference of music, like listening-wise? Mine's vinyl, followed by cassettes. But for the portability, digital's the way to go. William says glam metal. Now that's up my street. Yeah, I love me some glam metal. Love me some glam metal. One of my favorite glam metal bands comes from your neck of the woods over there in England. Love me the London Choir Boys. Love them. Freaking amazing. They got lumped into that glam metal era because of the time period they came out. But man, they're freaking amazing. I finally got a chance to see them live like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Finally got to see them live. I mean, I've seen them live on video, but that's not seeing them live in person. Dude, on my Facebook page, not the one for the show, but my personal Facebook page, I got to hang out with your boys. They were cool as hell. Spike was a super nice guy. He was drunk off his ass, but he was a super nice guy. Yeah, dude, I love the London Choir Boys. Your boy's voice is so unique. So it's like a cross between Uh, it's a cross between like Rod Stewart and I'd have to say a cross between Rod Stewart and what's the old girl's name? Janis Joplin. He's got a real raspy voice, dude. I love the London Choir Boys. Love them, love them. That's my dream to see them live. Yeah, dude, they're amazing. They still together. They still jam. Love me the London Choir Boys. If you ever get a chance to see them, I definitely suggest it, dude. They put on one hell of a show. I seen them in a club no bigger than my apartment. Like if I would knock down all the walls in my apartment, which is like 900 square feet, maybe. Dude, the club was about as small as this. And dude, they put on an amazing show. And then as soon as the show was over, they went backstage, they toweled off, they came out and they were drinking with the public. Dude, they were just, I mean, there wasn't that many people there. There might have been like 50 people there. But dude, they were super nice guys, super cool. They're like, dude, let's drink a beer, let's whatever, and awesome bunch of guys. Probably one of my favorite glam bands. I mean, everybody loves their first album. What is it? A Bit of What You Fancy. Great album. Their second album's a great album. What was the name of that one? Tramps and Thieves. No, that was the name of the. Was that the name of the album, or was that the name of the lead song? And then the Well-Oiled Machine was another one. Man, they just got so many good albums. I mean, you know, their most popular one obviously is their first one. That's what gave them their big break. I know they played Donington, and I'm like, they're huge in Europe. Here in the States, they had mild success with they just got into they were lumped into the glam scene, kind of like the Black Crowes. They were lumped into the glam scene too. They were more bluesy than glam, but you know, just good rock and roll. Love the Choir Boys. Love them. You know, I love Poison. You know, I've met Ricky Rocket a couple times. Ricky Rocket's a nice guy, cool dude. You know, I mean, but yeah, back to the music formats. I mean, each one. Let's start with vinyl. Vinyl, obviously, before vinyl, recorded music was on cylinders, on cylinders, and I think Edison made that machine. It was wax cylinders, and that didn't stay very long. And then they came out with the vinyl. Vinyl's been around since it was started. Vinyl's still around. People are still putting albums out on vinyl. They're using more durable, thicker vinyl, thicker gauge vinyl. So, but records are expensive. I saw some new records on vinyl and some older stuff that was re-released on vinyl. And vinyl's like 20, 30, 40 bucks for a record. And I'm like, that's absurd. I remember buying records when I was a kid in the late 70s, early 90s. It was like $6.99 for vinyl. And then cassettes were around the same price. Cassettes, well, before cassettes got mainstream, you had 8 tracks, and that was the portable way of doing it. But 8 tracks were weird. It's like it was one tape that just kept looping, and you press a button, and it would go from one track to another. Or if you press the button twice, it would go. I forgot how they even worked. But and it still amazes me to this day. If you could ever find yourself an 8-track player and an 8-track cassette, put it in and try to figure out how it works. It's weird. You had 4 sides, so you press the button once, and it all played at the same time. So the tape was about yay thick, about 3/4 of an inch thick, and each track was all recorded. So you had 4 sides, so they recorded. You know, it's probably maybe close to an inch wide, maybe. I don't know. So you had a track on the first quarter of the tape. Right under it, you had another track, and another track. So if you hit the button, it would jump from one song to the song on B, and then C, and then D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, so if you had 4 songs per side, so you'd listen to song 1 here. So you could hit play through all. And it was like a continuous loop, this tape. And if I remember the mechanics of it, and you would let it play through 1, 2, 3, 4 on side 1, 1, 2, then it would go to 1, 2, 3, 4 on side 2, side 3, side 4, or I should say track one, two, three, four. So anyway, you'd have all these songs, or you could hit the skip button and skip it within its track list, or you could hit it twice and it would go to the same, like track one would be the same on part A as part B, and yeah, it was weird. Just so confusing. And people would, yeah, I don't know. People, there's freaks that still like them some 8 tracks. But then the cassette was just so more convenient, so more popular, easier to deal with, easier to find songs. You just had 3 options. You could play, rewind, fast forward. So it was easier to find the songs you're looking for, more portable, had a jewel case where you could keep it protected. Then CDs came along, and CDs were a little thinner, a little taller. So, I mean, but they were a little wider this way, long-wise. So, I mean, you could fit maybe a CD and a half in the space of the width of a cassette tape. So you could store a lot more, it was less likely to skip, scratch, or drag with everyday use and just its thing. Then MP3s just make stuff so much easier to store. Like I said, you could store a shit ton of music. I mean, I need to get another hard drive just to back up what I've got, just in case this hard drive crashes. And, hard drives are, I've got a 2 terabyte thing and it's filled with music. So yeah, it's got its place, but records and cassettes are probably my favorite way of listening to music, but it's just hard to find a cassette player these days. And, especially in cars. If you want to listen to music in cars, you're better off just streaming your music or bringing a CD. Yeah, it's hard to find a cassette player in a car these days, unless you buy an old classic car or you find an old radio on Craigslist or not YouTube, eBay or something. Then you got to worry about the mechanics of it still working. So yeah, this documentary, I highly recommend this documentary. Go check it out. It's called Cassette, a documentary mixtape. Very interesting, but yeah, the guy who invented the modern cassette also killed it with the CD. But it's making a comeback. And like in this documentary, man, it was showing, and this documentary was made in 2017. So it's like only a year old, almost 2 years old now. But still, there was swap meets for just cassettes. They had the tape heads collection, where there's a store in New York that only sells music on cassettes. And one of the guys on this documentary said, could you imagine if like Justin Timberlake released a new album on cassette only? You'd have all these little girls running out just to buy a new cassette player or trying to find a Walkman or something to play this on, because that would really kickstart this whole cassette revival. If a big name band that's like super popular, let's look at it like, I don't know, what's some of the people that my son listens to? He listens to Shinedown. He listens to, I listen to Shinedown too. They're all right. Trying to think, like one of these new bands, 21 Pilots. Let's say 21 Pilots came out tomorrow with a new album, cassette only. It's the only way you could find it. I'm sure somebody would find a way to digitalize it and put it up on the internet and people would get it bootleg, but you'd have to find, those people with those files to find it. But let's say it came out mainstream cassette only. You'd have a bunch of people that are into this running out to find their own cassette deck. And then you'd have the radio stations scrambling to find a way to play it over the air, because they don't use, tape decks no more. I'm sure they probably could dust one off. But everything now is digital. Push of a button, done. You program it, you're done. You make your playlist and hit play, done. But there's the days of disc jockeys, flipping records and whatever, that's long gone. To be a disc jockey now, all you got to do is have a radio voice and be able to push a button. So yeah, the digital age of music is more convenient, but for sound quality, hate to say it, albums and cassettes are the way to go. They're just so much richer and so much warmer. Uh, yeah, I've got a friend of mine that I know I've been knowing a while. That's all he does is listen to music on vinyl, and he'll go hunt down vinyl and records. Actually, I got a good friend of mine that does it, and these other people that I know, that's what they do on the weekends. They go to garage sales and used record stores and used bookstores, and they hunt down vinyl. That's they're a couple, and that's their passion is music and going to hunt down music on vinyl. Good for them. And then like before albums were made, I mean, there was a bunch of singles. That was the way to go. You had the little 45s. Vinyl had its thing. You had your 12-inch vinyl, and then you had your little 45 vinyl, which was a song on each side. Basically, then the cassettes came out with, they're like, hey, we're going to release a single. Obviously, they released the whole album first, and then they came out with the cassette single. You'd have a song or two on each side. So it's like, and then the weird thing is, the record companies found a way to get into your pockets even more. Like I said, I had a lot of cassettes, a lot of CDs before Hurricane Katrina, and they would release a single. They'd release the whole album, and then sometimes on the album, the CD would have an extra track, a bonus track on the CD, and then it would be one thing, and then on the cassette would have a bonus track. So you'd have to go out and buy the CD and the cassette just to have all the songs. So the record companies weren't stupid. They money hungry whores. And then sometimes the cassette single or the CD single or the maxi single would have a track that wasn't even on either one of those albums. So they found a way for you to go buy another one of their products. Even if you had the album, you still didn't have the other track. Let me see what well, gotta run. I'll see you on the next one. Keep up the good work, buddy. Thank you, William, for sitting with me. I know it's late. Have a happy Monday to you and a good sleep. Hopefully, I mean, I know it's like midnight 30 over by you guys over there across the pond in the UK. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next video live, which will be next Sunday, hopefully, if I'm feeling good. But I should post, I'll probably have another video posted up by tomorrow. Just a regular video. I always, whenever I go live, it's 99.9% on a Sunday. It's just easier for me, easier for you guys, because Sunday's fundy, right? That's when most people are home in front of their computers or TVs or what have you. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, William. I appreciate you. Let's see. But yeah, music. I could go on and on about music and music formats because music's near and dear to my heart. Music could get you through a lot of things. Music can get you through depression. Music can get you over a breakup. Music can put you in a romantic mood. Music can make or break a movie, believe it or not, which is the second favorite love. I love movies and TV shows. I mean, somebody took a montage clip of The Shining, Stephen King's Shining, with Jack Nicholson, and they took out all the eerie music, the eerie composed music, and put what was it? It was a Seinfeld laugh track to it in Seinfeld music. And then the movie's not as scary. So music can set the tone to a lot of things. Speaking of music, this past Thursday, I went with my son to his school's Christmas band concert. My son doesn't play music, but he's got a bunch of friends that are in the different bands. When I was in high school, there was just one band. You had two bands. You had the marching band, which was regular band with the band geeks, and then you had the jazz band, which was people who played guitar, bass, drums, stuff like that. You had the jazz band that would play some jazz, and every once in a while they would have like a trombonist or a trombonist or a what do you call that thing? A trumpet player. But for the most part, it was just bass, drums, guitar, and they would just play jazz. And it was the jazz band. It was a smaller version of the band. They didn't march or nothing like that. But anyway, his school has like 4 or 5 different bands, and they all had their they changed. A lot of people were in the same bands. Like they had the orchestra band, they had the brass band, they had the what was it? I don't remember. He's got the little program, but they each played 2 or 3 songs, and these high school kids, they were real good. I mean, it was all classical orchestrated pieces, but it was like all Christmas related music. They did a montage of popular Christmas songs or whatever, and it flowed very well. I mean, it was interesting. But when you get the classical music, I used to like to go once a year to the symphony and listen to the symphony they had. And of course, I was being the white trash with cash that I was. Now I'm just white trash with no cash. But being that way, it was like they always had Beethoven and blue jeans. So I could go in New Orleans, I could put on a pair of blue jeans, a t-shirt, and go listen to the orchestra and not have to deal with the hoity-toity tea sippers, in their tuxes and their suits to go listen to music. Because, I mean, what, just because I don't look like you, I can't listen to classical music? No, that was cool. They had Beethoven and blue jeans. It was awesome. But I don't get the idea of the conductor. I was even telling my son this. We were there, and I was whispering to him because you're in a setting, you're in this big auditorium and what have you, and you can't be loud, obviously, because there's a concert going on. I whispered to him, I was like, dude, do you get the whole conductor thing? It's like some of the hand movements when they doing all of this with the stick in their hands, and I get that sometimes they do this. They put their hand out like this to tell a certain section to stop, and it's their cue. But most of the time they just doing all of this and this. I don't get the idea of it. I mean, if I love the music, but I don't get the job. I don't get the conductor job. I know it's something to keep time and keep people in peace, but maybe because I don't play that kind of instrument, I don't get it. I don't understand it. So yeah, if y'all understand the whole conducting thing, let me know down there in the comment section because I sure don't know what the hell's going on with that shenanigans. But yeah, they cease to amaze me. And I think if you're a conductor of an orchestra or a music teacher at a school, and obviously it's the music teachers that are doing the conducting at these high school things, I think if you're a teacher, especially if you're a teacher, you should be able to play every instrument that them kids are playing. Really. I mean, because otherwise, yeah, you can teach them how to read music, but hey, Mo, how are you? Mo Silva up in the house, yo. And I didn't forget about you. I got that unboxing video coming up, and I appreciate it, buddy. And I got to figure out how and what to cook with that thing. I appreciate it, buddy. Don't fret. I know you got that. You sent me that message earlier this week or yesterday, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I just got to figure out what I want to do in it. First, I got to post I can't do a cooking video with it yet because I haven't posted the unboxing. That's coming. Just have a little patience with me, buddy, and it's deeply appreciated. I'm gonna pick my chef friend's brain and figure something out. And he was telling. I did talk to him about it a little bit. He told me that basically it's a miniature convection oven is what he said it is. But they call it a fryer, but it's basically a convection oven. But that's sidetracking from what we're discussing today. Right now, we're discussing music and music formats. So and yeah, but like I was saying, the whole high school teacher thing. Yeah, you can teach them how to read music, but once you learn how to teach them how to read music, you got to know how to teach them what notes are what on some of these instruments. And some of these instruments are super complex and weird and have many different keys and many different holes and all this kind of stuff. Man, it's crazy. Just within, I got a friend of mine's kid who's in a marching band, and he plays a tuba. And they were showing pictures. Well, he's in band. He's not in a marching band because there's not a whole lot of marching going on here in Texas, so they're not marching in parades. But he plays a tuba, and she posted a picture of him on Facebook, and he's holding this thing, and I'm like, "Girl, that ain't no damn tuba. What the hell is that?" And she's like, "No, it's a tuba." And I was like, so I sent her a picture of this thing from a marching band, which I call a tuba, and technically it is a tuba. It's a marching tuba, but it's called a, what is it called? A saxophone or something along those lines. But it's in the tuba family. But the one that you put over you and it wraps around and you got the big bell horn way up here over your head, it's a tuba. But that's what I thought a tuba was. The tuba he plays looks almost like a weirdly shaped French horn. But French horns have all the all the brass tubing round, where this is oval shaped. And yeah, it was a tuba. So hell, Big Red learned something a year ago. It's never too late to start learning, and because the minute you stop learning is the day you become irrelevant because you're stuck. You don't learn nothing new. Um, Man, that line in my forehead is getting deeper and deeper. That whole worried line, that whole old age line, man, that's yeah, 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 yeah. The hairline keeps receding. I mean, the hairline used to be a little lower. It's right about here now, and I just keep shaving my dome because that hairline's receding and getting thinner and thinner. It's still thick on the sides, but anyway, yeah, oof, that's kind of worrisome. Enough about that. Let's get back to talking about music. Again, what is your favorite format of music? I mean, do you like vinyl? Do you like cassettes? Do you like 8 tracks? Are you one of those freaks that still dig the 8 tracks? Are you a CD kind of person, or are you that young that you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about and all your music's stored in the cloud digitally? Let me know down there in the comment section. Your favorite format of music. Let me know your favorite style of music. Mine is definitely 80s rock, heavy metal, uh, stuff like that. But I mean, I listen to everything from classical to death metal. So I mean, and everything in between. Uh, Let me know your favorite genre of music down there. Uh, it's just a musical kind of thing. And this whole video was inspired by a documentary that I watched. So basically, this is a fat man on film live because I'm talking about this documentary that I just watched. That was it. It was eye opening that I said it earlier in the video that the guy who invented the modern cassette tape also killed it because he also invented the CD for modern music, which gave birth to the whole digital age of music. Uh, yeah, it's crazy, y'all. Um, and he had no qualms about it. It was like basically this guy was an engineer, and he just was like trying to get on to the next newest thing. And when they asked him, if he had any nostalgia about it, he was like, nope, none whatsoever. He cared less. He was like, he even said in the documentary that, he said he doesn't even understand the people that still listen to cassettes because there's a whole revival of people listening to cassettes. He's like, I don't get it. He goes, it's a special kind of person that still listens to cassettes, but he's like, he was nostalgic about the people he worked with during that time period, but about the product and the process of making it, none whatsoever. No nostalgia whatsoever. Um, it's a very interesting documentary. So if you want to check that out, it's called Cassette, a Documentary Mixtape. Uh, yeah, that whole, it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's like making a mixtape for someone. You put a lot more time and effort and feelings into making a mixtape versus that mixed CD or that mixed playlist. Because with a playlist or a CD, you just click and drag, boom, it's done. Cassettes, you had to sit there in real time, So if you were making somebody a mixtape with 10 songs on it, you had to sit there and listen to all 10 songs. And you had to think, first of all, you had to go through the thought process of, okay, I'm making this tape for this friend and or this family member or this loved one or this significant other that I'm trying to impress or whatever. Because let's face it, when you were coming up in my day and age, and you were awkward and you didn't really some people were awkward and they didn't really know how to talk to the opposite sex. They would make people mixtapes, and it was like you'd never have a mixtape that had the song saying "I love you" or nothing like that, but you would give them the more sappy side of your music collection. Love Elvis, Led Zeppelin, John Denver, and local bands. Yeah, the only one out of that, I mean, I love me some Elvis the Pelvis, and I love me some Led Zeppelin. John Denver, one or two songs, take it or leave it. And I don't know the local music scene in your area, but I mean, local music's always good. Most of them are all cover bands, but they're good musicians. But John Denver, one or two songs, and I'm pretty done with John Denver. I mean, I know he's got his place and he's very popular with a lot of people, but I got a love-hate relationship with Led Zeppelin though. Great musicians, great musicians. Robert Plant, great voice. The problem I have with Led Zeppelin is they're a bunch of thieving bastards. There it is. I said it. Led Zeppelin's a bunch of thieving bastards. Let's look at some of their songs. When the Levee Breaks. Popular song, real popular song, made them a lot of money. Guess what? It was a remake and it was lifted. Now, you're going to say a lot of people made remakes, and especially in the 60s and 70s, a lot of bands would record other people's stuff, and I get it, but they were credited with that song. As to where Led Zeppelin, nobody knows who wrote When the Levee Breaks. I do. It was a lady from New Orleans called Memphis Minnie. Old blues song. How about Gallows Pole? Yep, that was a Ledbetter song. Old blues song. Did he get any credit for it? Hell no. Stairway to Heaven. Although the song is not a remake, the vocals and the lyrics is not a remake, but that signature riff was lifted from another band. Didn't get no credit. They got sued for it. But yeah, what else? There's a bunch of Zeppelin songs that are remakes, which, I mean, let's face it. Motley Crue, Smoking in the Boys' Room, is a remake. But unless, and see, this goes back to the whole format. If you didn't have Motley Crue's Theater of Pain album on vinyl or on cassette or on CD, you'd never know it's a remake because they credited them in the actual CD or case, in the little booklet, or on the sleeve for the vinyl, or in the J card of the cassette. It was credited, and it was who originally did "Smoking in a Boys' Room"? Was it Brownsville Station? Did that? Hell, Quiet Riot, their biggest hit. What was it? Come On, Feel the Noise was a remake. A lot of people don't know that. It was a remake. Band called Slade. Mama, We're All Crazy Now. Another remake from the same band, Slade. Great Whites. Once Bitten, Twice Shy. Remake. But they all remakes. What did Mo Silver say? There are no original songs. Everything is interpreted from something else, but some stuff was stolen on on purpose. Oh yeah, definitely, especially with Zeppelin. Zeppelin's the biggest bunch of thieves. Love the music, don't get me wrong, buddy. Love it, love it, love it. But what's funny is the what I would call the big three hard rock bands from the 70s. And obviously some of them got their start before the 70s, but the big three, Zeppelin, the Stones, and Kiss. Biggest three bands to come out of the 70s. They all had their own fans, and it's like my cousin was a Zeppelin freak, hated Kiss. I was a Kiss freak, but I still liked Zeppelin, and they had their purpose, and I loved their music. They're more musical than Kiss was. I mean, let's face it, Kiss is nothing more than three-chord rock and roll, sped up a little bit, tuned down just a little bit, and then also you got Sabbath, which is the godfathers of metal. Which, funny enough, first concert, my first record album was Kiss Alive. Awesome album, awesome album. And then we'll get into live albums here in a second. But no, like, I had a friend in high school. Also, he was a Zeppelin freak. Loved him some Led Zeppelin. Hated Kiss. You know, and then the people that like the Stones, just like the Stones. You know, me, I'm more versatile. I'll listen to anything that sounds good to my ear. Let's get into the whole live album since Mo Silver brought up his first album. His first live album was Kiss Alive. Great album. Do you know that it wasn't all completely live? I don't believe there's very few actual live albums that haven't been overdubbed. Say you will. There's a band from New Orleans, and I'm just gonna leak this out here if y'all don't know. There's a band called Crowbar. Excellent sludge metal band. Friends with all those guys. So who knows? I might catch some static if they see this or what have you. They have an album called Live Plus One. And it's four live tracks or 5 live tracks plus 1 studio song. Well, let me let y'all in on a little information. The whole album was recorded in a studio. I'm friends with the guy who recorded it. And I've actually got that album without the crowd noise because the crowd noise was just added in as an extra track. It was all done in a studio. Now, did they play live in a studio? Yes. It was all done in one or two takes. They all went into the studio. They all set up at the same time. So technically, it is a live album because they play live, as to where they didn't lay down a bass track, a drum track, a guitar track, other than the people that were there recording it in themselves. The crowd noise was added in as another track. But yeah, I would say about 95% of live albums aren't live. They're recorded, they might be recorded live, but they go back into the studio, and if they messed up a guitar lick or if they messed up a vocal, they go back in and overdub it. So, and then there's also a lot of albums that were done like the Crowbar album where it was done live in a studio and the crowd noise was just added in. But I mean, there's some good live albums. I mean, love Kiss Alive 1, Kiss Alive 2. Actually like the fourth, because Kiss Alive 2 was 2 albums. I like side 4 or side 2 of the second album, which is the studio tracks. Love those songs on there. There's some good songs on there. A lot of people forget about them except for New York Groove. Was New York Groove on that album? What was on that album? New York Groove wasn't on that album. Was it Rocket Ride? Baby wanna ride, baby wanna ride. She wants a rocket ride. Yeah, that was on there. And then something USA. I can't. Man, I'm getting old and nostalgic here. One of my favorite live albums is "Speak of the Devil" by Ozzy. Oh man, I wore out a copy on vinyl. I mean, it's hard to wear out a vinyl album, but man, did I do it. I went through 2 copies of that. Love that album. That's a great live album. But again, I'm pretty sure it was overdubbed. Um, yeah, so there you go. A little music insight. A lot of your live albums aren't live, or not live in the manner in which they want to deceive the public. In which, oh, it's a live album. Tesla's one man acoustical jam. That album is live, and it flows, but it's not recorded. It's not recorded live completely as one concert. It's a bunch of what do you call that? It's a bunch of live songs put together from I think 5 different shows, and they pieced it together to make it sound like one show. But at least they were smart enough to tell the public that hey, this is made from 5 different shows. Mo just asked me another question. What's for dinner? I got a new toy today. It's like a hot plate on steroids, and it seems magical. Um, I ate around a little around noon. I made it's almost 7 o'clock tonight. Good lord! But I'm still full from lunch. Uh, I made some what I think I got the video up where I made barbecue macaroni or barbecue pasta. I boiled a bag of uh, macaroni and I cut up some hot dogs and I threw them in there, boiled it all, took it out, put some onion powder, garlic powder, some red pepper flake, some barbecue sauce for my sauce, whipped it all together, a little bit of butter, whipped it all together, and I had the whole damn pot because I'm a big fatty. Ate the whole bag of pasta and 6 hot dogs that were sliced up in it. And that's what I had for lunch. And I'm still full from lunch. Pasta is very cheap, very filling. Uh, so I'm still not hungry. And then I did 2 snack attack videos, but they're all liquid snacks. So those videos will probably be up. Hell, I still got a shit ton of. I probably got about 50 more snack videos to go up before these ever come out. But I did some liquid snacks. I've just finished that. Before I did that, I did a review on this here. Uh, Market Side Sweet Iced Tea, which since y'all here and whatever, it was terrible. Watch the video, you'll see what I rated it as. And I did 2 other drink items as a snack attack video. So I'm filled up on liquid and macaroni from earlier today, and plus, right after I ate that big old pot of macaroni, I caught a little siesta. I fell asleep watching the documentary. As a matter of fact, I woke up and I had to rewind it and watch it again from where I left off. But anyway, so Mo, to answer your question, I'm probably not having dinner. I usually, whenever I don't have my son, I usually eat once a day, and it's usually lunch or dinner, never both. I may have a little snack with some chips or something before I go to bed, because unfortunately I'm out of milk. It's Sunday and I don't feel like getting dressed to go anywhere. I'm out of milk, out of cookies. I do have some ice cream in the freezer though, but it's freaking cold as a witch's titty outside. That's weird. You're not the first person to tell me that, Mo. Um, but when I go to watch it, it looks when you're watching it live, I think it's backwards. But when you watch it played back, it's not. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's weird how it does that. So yeah, I know you're not the first person to tell me that, and I don't know how to fix that. To be honest with you, I really don't. Um, when I look at it, because obviously, it's no big secret. I film everything on my phone, and I got it in selfie mode, so I can see y'all's comments. Otherwise, I'd never see your comments until I go back and scan through the comments. But to reply to you guys live in real time, I need it in selfie mode. But when I look at it on the screen, it looks oh, excuse me, it looks right on my screen. So, but I apologize that it looks backwards, mirrored image. Uh, I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. That's something with YouTube or my phone. I don't know. Um, oh, look at a kitty cat. She's out. I mean, look at that. I mean, let me flip y'all around so y'all could see some of that. I mean, how can you not love that? Yeah, I'm showing you off. Isn't that funny that cats could lay there and act like they're sleeping, and you give them that little, and they wide awake. Oh, I guess that's why they call it cat napping. Come on, girl. Come on, since I woke you up. Come on. Up. Come on. There you go. There's the baby. Anyway, so yeah, this whole thing was mostly about music. So heck, I've been doing this for an hour and 5 minutes. Probably this is one of the longer times I've been live. Um, I did this a little bit earlier because, like I said, I took a little siesta, and whenever I take a nap in the middle of the day, I'm screwed for the rest of the night. I'll be up for a little bit and then I'll crash, and I'll crash hard, and probably I'll crash before I normally go live. So that's why I went on a little bit earlier. For those of y'all joining us now, um, thanks for joining. But yeah, I'm about to get off here. My phone just said I've only got 15% battery left, which, I mean, I could keep going for a little while before this thing decides to crap out on me. Is there anything y'all want to talk about? I mean, this whole video was mostly about music and music formats, for the most part. But y'all know when it comes to this whole weekly review, I'll talk about anything y'all know about. So, you post something in the comment section, I try to get to it. Especially if it's live, I could reply to you in live time versus waiting for me to check my YouTube once a day or once every other day, depending on how my pain is, if I want to sit in front of a computer on a hard chair. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. It's been a little over an hour. I want to thank each and every one of you guys who popped in, popped out, left comments. I want to thank Mo for stopping by again. Mo, I haven't forgotten about you. I love you like a brother. Thanks a lot for sending the package. That unboxing video is coming shortly. Then once I learn what I'm going to do with that thing, the cooking's going to start. So just have a little patience with me. I know that it's appreciated. You have a good night as well, Mr. Mo Silver. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks to everybody who stopped in and, posted that comment, had the conversation. I'll see you guys live next Sunday. I don't know. Do y'all like this newer, earlier time, or do y'all rather me go on at 9 o'clock? I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm doing this one. I know last week I didn't do a live video, I don't believe, but I try to do it as much as I can. The reason, if you don't see me go live, it's because I'm in a lot of pain, and I just can't keep up the facade or charade, if you will, of being happy and chipper. I'd rather be upbeat when it comes to something live. When I do a video where it's going to be a review, I usually review it trying to be in an upbeat mood, but I mean, I can wait to do that and post it later, so it is what it is. But if I don't go live, don't try to crucify me and nail my nuts to the cross. It's because I'm in a lot of pain or I'm doing something with my kid. That's the only time I won't go live. But anyway, thank you guys from the bottom of the big fat belly to the top of the almost bald dome. Thanks for stopping by. Another Big Reds weekend review where we talk about, I'll start a topic. If you want to continue that conversation, we will. If not, I'll just ramble on. And if you have something that's on your mind and you want to talk to Big Red about, leave it down there in the comment section and we'll discuss it in live time. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Do me that favor. Tell your ma, tell your pa, tell your greasy grandma, share the video with your family and friends. Maybe they'd like to go live and hang out with your boy too. Don't know unless you share the video. Sharing, start caring, people. Share the video. Leave a comment down below. I'll hit y'all up back. Y'all know the drill. In the description box, there's a link to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, a link to this channel's homepage where you can find all the older videos. Even there's a section for these live videos if you want to go back and see what the hell I was talking about. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Big Red, over and out for another Weekend Review Live. Until next time, y'all just love one another. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see y'all next Sunday live. Hopefully 5 or 7 more videos coming up this week of reviews and other shenanigans. Who knows? See y'all then. Peace.